This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty here at the Fort Hall School of Government to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and ideas that made you stupid. Narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjuncture history, and those that smack of plain envelope journalism. Welcome to and 2J. Hello.
Asante sana. Now, the timing of the release of the Pandora Papers is downright suspect. And we say it is suspicious because how is it that Uhuru Kenyatta is the only Kenyan that made it on that Pandora's list?
Great question.
How is it that out of the 400 billionaires in Kenya, only one Kenyan has their money in tax havens? But I have another thought. Open Society is the largest funder of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalism, ICIJ. Now, ICIJ are the rumor peddlers behind Pandora Papers. Now, Open Society is owned by George Soros. George Soros himself is said to have stashed about $18 billion in tax havens. That's 20% of Kenya's GDP. But these Pandora fellows did not mention Soros anywhere. Question is why? Why does one of the wealthiest men in the world, with one of the largest hidden stashed fortunes globally, sponsor a group of scribes to expose hidden wealth of other wealthy people? What's his motive? There can only be one motive behind Pandora Papers, and that is regime change. And we say this because Soros has been placed at the heart of the world's largest protests and regime change campaigns. From the Occupy Wall Street protests to the Arab Spring, Soros has been long suspected of being behind the greatest civil disobedience movements globally. But that's not all. The judiciary under Maraga was financed by George Soros. In fact, days after the 2017 annulment, David Kenani Maraga traveled to George Soros' largest footprint in Europe. It's called Lithuania. Why would a Supreme Court judge travel to Lithuania in the middle of an election? David Day, the Katiba Watch puppets, and some elements within the judiciary are beneficiaries of Soros' money. Question is, if Soros' money was used to finance the Maraga 2017 annulment, if his money was used to finance BBI's collapse, why wouldn't his money be used to depose Uhuru Kenyatta? And if toppling Kenyatta before 2022 is an endgame by Soros and co, why would who would be the beneficiary? It is RUTO. In fact, we want to hypothesize that the Pandora Papers are designed to kickstart a motion of no confidence against President Kenyatta in order for RUTO to take over before 2022. Take it or leave it.
Wow. So the Wazungu's RUTO, okay.
He is coming
I
in.
believe parts of it, I really do.
So what did the Pandora Papers really say? They revealed what we already know, that the first family is wealthy and manages that wealth discreetly. This is not new. It found that members of the Kenyatta family have used offshore accounts for years and that they own an expensive apartment in the UK. This is like calling water wet. So while we can admit that the optics of this is not favorable amidst growing inequality, we must be able to divorce the politics from this issue. That is why I think the president's statement on this was important, because he is looking to the future. He chose to focus on what the implications on fiscal legitimacy should be. And so perhaps those in Karen should watch out. It is also why we must ground this conversation. Before this Pandora Wahala, there exists in Kenya a Public Officers Ethics Act that states every public officer shall once every 2 years, as prescribed by Section 27, submit to the Responsible Commission for the Public Officer a declaration of income, assets, and liabilities of himself, his spouse or spouses, and his dependent children under the age of 18 years. The assumption made by most Kenyans and the media is that Uhuru Kenyatta has refused to do so. But dig a little deeper and you will find that the wealth declarations don't need to be made public. One must request and have good reason to gain access to these wealth declarations. And even when access is granted, Section 30, Part 2 of the Public Officers Ethics Act states, no information obtained pursuant to subsection 1 shall be published or in any way made public except with prior written authority of the responsible commission. I now want to distinguish between tax avoidance and tax evasion.
Yes.
Put simply, tax avoidance is an action taken to lessen tax liability and maximize after-tax income. While tax evasion is the failure to pay or a deliberate underpayment of taxes, in Kenya, tax avoidance is technically legal. The legality of actions that may constitute tax avoidance is determined on a case-by-case basis. However, it is rational for a taxpayer to arrange his financial affairs in a manner that reduces the tax obligations because the law permits. Organizing the financial conduct of a person in the most tax-efficient way is known as tax planning, which is lawful. It begs the question, if the Kenyattas are better tax planners, should they be penalized for it?
Good question.
Lastly, maybe there's a lesson for us all, no matter how big or small our money is, or your money is, that we can trust in the Kenyan economy. The Kenyattas clearly trust Kenya to make them some good money and continually invest their businesses here at home. Maybe this is just capitalism 101 from Head Mudhamaki. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
GK, have you ever heard of a Pandora's list for poor people?
Maybe CRB.
Okay, so as we have this conversation, I think it's important that we start by addressing the elephant in the room. Offshore banking has an image problem. And because of that, any mention of it elicits a negative reaction. But in order to have this conversation, we need to start from a place of knowledge, not misguided preconceptions. So first, let's do away with misleading terms such as stashing, hiding, or secretive. Using services out of a bank outside of your home country is not illegal. And to be clear, this practice is not just for the wealthy. Some foreign banks will take as little as $300, 30,000 shillings of your money and start an account. I may do the same. But there is a delusion that there's this pot of illegal money sitting somewhere. This is false. This money that sits in a tax-friendly country is invested and reinvested. The reason why people go to the British Virgin Islands or Panama is not necessarily to avoid tax. In fact, research shows that most people pay taxes wherever the taxes are due to be paid. But our lazy and evil media will never tell you this. Why? Because your ignorance is how they sell papers and make money.
Absolutely.
So let's damage a little bit of ignorance. And this starts by asking some simple questions in relation to Kenyatta Inc. 1. Is this money from the proceeds of theft or corruption? According to these Pandora papers, no. In fact, the files very explicitly show no evidence that the Kenyatta family stole or hid their assets in their offshore companies. Secondly, are the Kenyattas paying taxes on this money? It is well known that Kenyatta Inc. is home to Brookside, Heritage, NCBA, all of these being Kenyan companies employing Kenyans and paying taxes. And 3, was this 3 billion amassed during Uhuru Kenyatta's time as president? Again, no. The Pandora papers again explicitly and all other reports show and have been clear that most, if not all of these companies were formed before Uhuru was elected. So now we're saying it's illegal to be rich.
Can you imagine?
This is a family that built this country. They actually received land as gifts. And 60 years later, silly Kenyans expect them to be broke. If anything, Can the United Association of Wheelbarrows explain to us how they have become billionaires in just 8 years? That's a report I would like to read.
You know what, 2J? People should work hard until their names appear on
the Pandora Papers
Pandora list,
for the next
Pandora
one.
Papers.
On Panama.
I'd want to appear on the Panama Papers.
Oh, thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. We'll put you on notice. See you next Monday.